Dear friends, I welcome you. I am glad to meet you, and I hasten to introduce you to two of our new products at once. I present to your attention a set of add-ons for Photoshop and vintage winter extensions. The perfect tools for creating artistic vintage postcards from your photo images. According to your requests and for your convenience, we have divided these two products, although initially it was planned to release all of them in one set. But some of you want to have only one panel for quick correction of your photo images, while others want to have only additions. And, as I have already said, for your convenience, we have divided these products, and first, friends, I will tell you in detail and describe our set of vintage winter add-ons. So, friends, the set of additions includes the most magnificent luxurious winter digital backgrounds, vintage also winter digital frames. Background frames are a separate story, we'll talk about them in detail, and you'll see what simply magnificent works can be done with them in a super short time, as well as a large set of vintage beautiful textures, and a small set of winter brushes. Well, now about all this in more detail. So the backgrounds. There are 6 magnificent, yes, you see, friends, and they're winter luxury backgrounds in the Jeep format, and 8 digital, no less magnificent and luxurious winter backgrounds in STI format on the screen. And yes, friends, I did not misspoke at all when I said that there are 8 digital backgrounds in STI format. While you are watching on the screen, there are only 6 of them. Let's look at them in more detail, and you will see and understand everything for yourself. There are 3 files with digital backgrounds in STI format in the general set. As you can see, I have only 3 documents open in the Photoshop window. We start with the extreme one, the digital background at number 2. We are starting to include layers, and look, friends, at the very bottom we have colored background substrates. Then there are backgrounds, light effect, and textures. In general, this file can be said to have one background, but the elements on these 2 layers are located at different levels, so that it is more convenient for you to adapt them to your photo images. And with the help of background substrates, turning their visibility on and off, your photo work can be either in warm or cold tones, depending on which color substrate you choose. That, will agree, friends, is quite convenient. And here is an example of a photo work, the creation of which we will analyze in detail in one of the following videos, created with the help of this background and a digital frame, which is included in this vintage winter set. We turn to the background number 1. I also include layers, background, friends, background, and elements. Here, New Year's holiday elements have been added to the background, and with the help of a texture, turning its visibility on or off, you can also make your photo work either warm or cold. And also, friends, please take a look at the example of combining this photo with a photo image. Agree that such a combination looks pretty good, festive and fabulous in a New Year's way, and to create similar photo paintings with the help of these digital backgrounds, but there is nowhere easier, and I will also show and tell you everything in detail about this. Friends, we turn to the background at number 3, and here, friends, you will understand why there are still 8 digital backgrounds in STI format. Before that, we looked at 2 backgrounds, and in this file everything is the same. First, there are backgrounds or background fills. Yes, if it makes it clearer to you, with which you can easily make your photo work either in warm or cold colors. But in this daddy, there are digital backgrounds, and if you count them, plus the 2 viewed, it turns out just 8 backgrounds. Above the group with backgrounds, there are 2 layers with excellent Christmas effects, as well as a layer of color correction. And so, friends, I turn on all the backgrounds available in this file in turn. Look, they are no less magnificent, yes, than the previous 2. Also, For each background, you can turn on or off light effects and color correction, as well as manipulate their opacity or overlay modes. And also, of course, you can manipulate the opacity of the backgrounds themselves and experiment with color overlay modes, working with various Photoshop functions. But no additional manipulations, friends. In working with these digital backgrounds, you absolutely do not need, because they are so thought out, they are so refined, that it will not be difficult to combine them with your photos and images. And I will demonstrate this to you with great pleasure in the following videos. In the initial presentation, I only mentioned a small set of brushes. Here, let me tell you a little more about them. The set, yes, is quite small. There are only 6 brushes in it, and let's show you what winter effects you can create with them in your works. Here is this brush called Frosty Haze. Actually, with it you can draw a snowy frosty haze, which will allow you to create a winter air atmosphere at your work and perfectly separate the model from the background. With the help of all the other brushes from this set, you can add various snow effects and details to your work and create truly exciting winter compositions. Using this brush, you can enhance the winter atmosphere at your work by adding flying or falling snow with it. Apply this effect point by point to your photo and apply filters from the blur section to it. For example, with the number 1 brush, we can draw snow lying in the folds of clothes of models, in hair, on a headdress, or put snow on other objects and elements of our composition. And using the brush number 2, we will be able to draw larger elements of snow on the details of our winter background. In general, friends, as you could observe, the set is really small, right? But in it, I tried to collect all the necessary brushes that you can use in working on winter photo images. Also in our set, friends, you will find unique winter vintage digital frames in SD format. This means that all elements, textures, and effects are on separate layers, allowing you to freely arrange them in your photo works. You will be able to experiment not only with elements, but also with backgrounds, because some frames contain several variants of backgrounds. And right now I'm showing you such a frame. In some frames, there is such a layer at the very top. This layer will allow you to draw a snow effect on your works without using brushes. Just choose a white soft brush and draw on the black mask of this layer. Here's another thing, friends. Pay attention. The most magnificent frame background with 2 different beautiful digital backgrounds. At the very top of the layers palette, there is a texture that will add an interesting color scheme to your work. Another digital frame with 2 completely different gorgeous backgrounds and wonderful Christmas lights. Another vintage frame at number 7, thanks to a variety of color fills substrates, will allow you to experiment with color and shades at your work. And as you can, friends, make sure that the elements are all on separate layers, allowing you to manipulate them. This is how the frame number 6 looks like, also consisting of a background substrates, lighting effects, textures, and elements. Frame number 5 also consists of a magnificent Christmas backgrounds, yes, and also all the elements are located on different layers. And here, I should note that there are 2 frames. Please use one or the other, or experiment. Use both at once. This gives a very interesting effect. And the remaining 2 delicate blue winter frames without such intricate backgrounds, but they are no less interesting, no less spectacular. Friends, we have looked at all the digital frames in detail, And now I suggest you take a look at how these frames can look like if they are combined with photo images. Many of these examples will be demonstrated in my video tutorials, which I recorded for this vintage winter set. And it remains for me to present you with such background frames from the set. And it's just an amazing thing. With them, you can make great vintage postcards in just a few minutes. And now I'm showing you a few works of how these vintage postcards can look like. And for complete inspiration, we offer you a collection of magnificent vintage textures. There are only 25 of them. They will help you create an atmosphere of vintage magic and give your works extra depth and texture. And then, friends, information about the new vintage winter panel. The information, friends, is mostly technical. Well, I assure you, it is a very important and convincing request to review it and treat it carefully and seriously. This, friends, is how our new panel looks like, despite the fact that it is not very large in terms of the number of actions. I mean, yes, but nevertheless, it is very capacious and quite functional, despite the fact that there are only 2 sections in it. This is basic correction and vintage toning. But for now, in this part of the video, we will only talk directly about the panel, since I need to convey to you very important information about its functionality, that is, how the actions themselves work. I will talk about this in detail and thoroughly and show you the video further. So, at the panel, in this vintage winter panel, there are also round icons on the right side indicating information. That is, if you click on this icon, a pop-up window appears, which describes in detail what this action does, and recommendations on how best to work with the layers resulting from this action. And now, friends, important information. At the moment on the screen, you are watching a version of the vintage winter panel designed to install Photoshop, below the version indicated on the screen. That is, for earlier versions than the version you are currently seeing on the screen. This panel, designed for earlier versions, will be located in the extension window menu after installation. And it was in this Photoshop directory that all our panels were located for several years. And it was with the 22nd version that Adobe introduced new features for extension developers, that is, panels. And now, friends, by purchasing our panels, you will have 2 versions of panels in the archive. A panel designed to be installed in an early version of Photoshop, an early version of Photoshop 22, and a panel designed to be installed in a new version of Photoshop above the 21st version. In addition to the new vintage winter panel, 2 more panels have been adapted for the new versions of Photoshop. This is an excellent skin tint and a panel for art stylization of photo images. And dear our customers who purchased these panels and who has a Photoshop version higher than the 21st, we recommend reinstalling. Go to your personal account on the Photo Design Studio website, download the archive again, and install a new version of the panel for the new versions of Photoshop. The new version of the panel is also installed differently. You need to go to the menu and select the plugins. And here, friends, all your extensions will be stored in the new versions of Photoshop. If you select the plugin panel, a single panel with all your extensions will open in the Photoshop window. In terms of functionality, panels for new versions of Photoshop are absolutely no different from panels designed for earlier versions of Photoshop. The only thing is that in our early panels, Not all actions have pop-up information signs, hints. In the new panels for each action, there is a similar sign with information, with a hint, with recommendations. But friends, we are also working on all of our previous panels, refining and adapting to new versions of Photoshop, and soon they will all be available to you. Friends, I will take a little more time from you for technical, but important information after purchasing the product. You can find the archive with the purchased material on our website in your personal account. Storage of your purchased products, as well as access to individual lessons and lessons from large training courses and master classes, is unlimited. If you purchase a separate panel or a product that contains an automatic actions panel, you will find installation instructions in the archive. We kindly ask you, friends, to carefully study and follow the recommendations and steps written in this manual. If you follow these recommendations carefully and exactly, you will have absolutely no problems installing the panels. If you still have any problems with the installation, the support service messages should be very detailed, describing in detail the actions that you performed to install the panel, as well as additionally reporting which panel you purchased, which version of the panel you are trying to install, and also be sure to specify which version of Photoshop you are installing the panel in. Friends, if you listened to technical information on the panel to the end, I am not usually grateful to you for this, and I am sure it turned out to be necessary and useful to you. And I also dare to hope, friends, that the presentation of our two new products interested you. And since the automatic actions from the vintage winter panel, you can't imagine, you can't show you how, for example, backgrounds, frames, textures. Full-fledged video lessons on working with this panel have already been recorded and will be released at regular intervals. If you, friends, have any questions about these products, please ask, write. We will be glad to answer you. We will be glad to help you. And with that, let me say goodbye to you, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for your attention. I wish you all the best.